Hello, everyone. Um, Today is going to be a slightly different day than our normal show. If you've tuned in before, I usually do DJing and do like electronic music stuff or trip hop, that kind of stuff. There's links in my streaming connection there. You can always look up. There's also albums for sale of music that I've made and things like that. So today is going to be a UFO show because today is supposed to be the day that the US was supposed to release a report about UFO stuff to a bunch of congressmen, I guess. But today I figured, since everybody's kind of disclosing things and letting everybody know what the U.S. is doing. I haven't really seen anything on the Canadian news, so the U.S. is kind of the only ones really focusing on it. There's a few Canadian channels, but not really much. So today I'm going to tell you my stories of what I saw a long time ago and recently. There's going to be 5 stories, and I have pictures here, which these are not pictures of UFOs. These are going to be pictures of locations that I could take with Google Earth, I guess, or Google Maps. So these are just the locations of where these things happen. To start off, I guess the first one I saw was in 2004 when I lived downtown on 14th Ave and 4th Street. And if you don't live in Calgary, if you're watching this on like the YouTube channel, if you don't live in Calgary, we're kind of close to the mountains geographically. We're like a 45-minute drive away from the mountains. It's a city of about, I think, a million, maybe 0.1 people. So sizable for Canada, but not big for many other cities, I imagine. So the first one, I guess, is me and a friend were working on some music in my apartment on the 4th floor of the apartment that I lived in downtown. And we came out of the studio and we sat down on the couches with him facing the window and me facing him, sitting with my back to the window. So as we were talking about the song that we were making, he just all of a sudden out of nowhere says, "What's that?" And he just kind of pointed out the window. So I turned around anticipating explaining to him what it was that he saw. So I turned around and I opened the balcony windows, because it was a window out to our balcony. And I opened the balcony door and I walked outside onto the balcony and I saw an object which I will demonstrate with this CD here, because I don't have anything that really resembles what I saw, which makes it unidentified, besides the fact that it was flying. So anyway, I'm going to try and demonstrate this. So this object, I'll do it on this side. So this object comes down out of the sky, kind of on an angle like this. I'm trying to check the camera at the same time here. And move over and down. And then it got to this apartment building that is right here. So the balcony that I was on was in this building over here. There's a little bit of a parkway kind of here. And then there's a crack house. And then there's this brown tall building right here. So it was just barely behind that big tall building, coming down to ground level. Like, I was on the 4th floor, so it was coming down really low to the ground. So it was coming this way and comes down and then turns this way and just comes straight down, so I could see it was a disc. And then it shifts and goes like this and is heading straight at me. and this is maybe like at most 300 feet away, I guess. So this is basically really, really close, and it's daylight outside, clear as day, kind of like this picture, very much like today, where it's just, there's no clouds, it's bright outside. I can see this thing perfectly clear, coming right at me, and that's, at a point I freaked out there, like a little bit, I had a little moment of being scared, because there was this thing coming at me that I could not explain, and it was coming straight for me. And as it did that, it came, and then it went, and then it just shifted. It just turned like that, like, was like this. It didn't do any sort of like curve or anything. It just literally was facing me, and then went this, like this, and just on an angle started moving behind that building. So when I got to looking at it from there, and it got behind that building, so it was low enough to the ground that it was flying between apartments, basically. If I was wondering if I was standing on the balcony, if it would have come closer, but it seemed like it was intelligently noticed me standing there, right in front of it, and it turned. That basically went behind that building, and I waited for it to come out the other side. I waited and waited and waited to see it come out the other side, and it didn't pop out the other end. While I was looking for it, I noticed an object further off in the distance, and that was just an airplane, and I could tell it was an airplane, and it was way further away than this thing was, and this thing made no sound. It made no sort of like vibration sound or anything. It wasn't the light. It was a silver object, and that's why I chose a CD. It was like this, actually, to get a good explanation of what the object color was. It was like a chrome mirror shined thing. Like if you were closer to it, you could probably see your reflection in it. It was like polished, perfect silver chrome disc. It was probably the size of maybe the size of, I'd say, a small bus, or the length of a small bus, and the height of like the ground to the top of like an SUV's tires. And the most amazing thing about it was the background of the city behind the object moving looked primitive compared to the object that I was looking at. Like it was just looked perfect. There was no rivets in it or anything like that. It was just a perfectly smooth disc. The light from the sun, which is the significance of why it's bright outside right now, this was probably in July, so it was like the summer outside. So it was bright outside. I think it was probably 7 o'clock or so, and the light from the sun was reflecting off of the tip of it and went all the way to the other end of it, which also told me that it was not a thing in my imagination, that it was also something that was solid that I was seeing, and the light reflected off of it, and that stuck in my head forever. It was just the most amazing thing that I'd seen, where it had like a cool reflection of the sun reflecting off of it, and it was that kind of color, basically. It was that shiny. So anyway, this is like the picture of the balcony that I was standing on. This is a picture of the building. This is the building I'm living in. This is where the thing hid behind, is this building right here, basically. And the photo doesn't really give it justice because it kind of gives it an elongated look, but it's actually a lot closer than it looks. Like there's not a lot of stuff in between my building and this brown one that it went behind. With my friend, my brain was trying to process what happened. I'm pretty sure is what happened, because I don't remember anything after walking off the balcony after seeing it. I don't remember telling him anything. I think what the problem was I wasn't ready to say I saw something that I couldn't explain to him, even though he was kind of like a UFO guy and he probably would have been really pleased to see that. My brain was too busy trying to like figure it out of what I just saw. And this thing probably, I saw it for maybe 25 seconds or so. And that was enough time for my brain to go, it's not a helicopter, it's not a bird, it's not a balloon, it's not a helicopter, it's not an airplane, it's not, you know, a satellite, it's not a, you know, whatever things people can come up with. It was a shiny silver chrome disc, basically. So my brain was too busy trying to figure out what just happened and was trying to rationalize what was going on that I think, you know, anything after that just kind of erased from my memory. I don't remember anything about anything really before that or after that in my memory, but that point, that seeing that thing, I remember, I will probably remember forever. I saw a second one in 2014, I would say. 2014, 2015. I didn't document the year when I saw these. Like, it wasn't a thing that kind of popped in my memory. The more recent ones I kind of did keep in mind the year. But anyway, so this one I will admit right off the bat that there could be a rational explanation for it, and I didn't even include it in my list of odd things I saw because I kind of just explained it away by myself for the longest time until I thought about it a lot more and still couldn't really explain it in my head. So I added it onto the list, but I totally accept the idea if people come up with like rational explanation for this one. And this one was a light in the sky, except not way up in the sky. This was low in the sky. It was a light, but it was blue. And so to set up the story, this is what really happened. So there was a storm out, and there was a little bit of lightning, a little bit of rain, a little bit of thunder. Calgary storms don't tend to last very long. It probably lasted maybe like 10 minutes or so. And so there was a little bit of a haze in the atmosphere, but not a lot. So I walked to 7-Eleven, which was just down the block, basically, and around the corner. So as I was coming back, I started to hear this weird noise in the sky. And so again, in this point, I'm actually hearing a sound. And I explained it as a helicopter, but it didn't sound exactly like a helicopter. It sounded like a really slow-moving, slow-motion propeller type sound, and it was really low tone. Like, it was a really like we hear helicopters fly over my place all the time, and this thing did not sound like that. I was just hearing this like do 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 do, and it was that slow. But when you hear helicopters go by here, you hear the blades like. I'm trying to make the best noise I can. Sorry if I can't make the best noise, but I'm doing the best I can. So it was a low tone sound, and so I hadn't seen it by this time. So I was walking down, and then I went around the corner. And I see above, like my apartment was in the corner here, and this object was just above this little haze, this little gray haze that was covering the sky. This blue fluorescent light was just above that, right above my apartment. I was living on the second floor, so there was a third floor, and then there was no more, and then the sky. Like neon blue teardrop shape that had little waves of blue electricity kind of caressing up it. That's the best way I can explain it. Trying to draw this, and I'm not very good at drawing in the first place, but trying to draw this was impossible. So I just gave up when I tried to like make a demo of what this thing looked like. So anyway, that's what it was, and it was making this weird noise, or I assumed that it was making the noise. I don't know exactly where the noise was coming from, but but the noise seemed to be coming from it, and I just watched it for a while, and then it just kind of faded away after maybe like 2 minutes of looking at it. And at the time, I just couldn't explain it. I just kind of brushed it off as ball lightning for years. And then one day I decided to look up what ball lightning looks like, or what the pictures say that it looks like. And it didn't look like that. And it didn't move. It just sat there with that blue sort of wave of electricity caressing a bit. So this is the building I lived in. This is the kind of corner that I lived in. And just above the roof of it was this thing. And I was looking at it from the street corner right here, basically. So I was pretty up close to it. That's not a far distance. That's only like one street length and a small little yard. This is gonna sound crazy because I've seen so many of these, and I don't want to sound like the crazy person that I don't have any reason why I see these things, except for maybe that I've watched the sky more ever since the very first one that I saw. So I'm more of a sky watching kind of person than somebody who's staring at their cell phone when they go out on walks. I'm looking for these. And even just actually to give you an explanation, even yesterday, I was walking and there were 2 red lights in the sky that I noticed when I was walking down the street at night that I'd never seen before. And I couldn't explain them for the longest, for a little bit. So I walked down the street to get closer and closer and closer, and I realized that it was a crane that had been built that was not there the day before, that had 2 lights on it. And from the distance I was at night, you couldn't see the crane, you could just see the lights, which are probably there for airplanes not to hit it. But I don't just go into these just assuming right off the bat that it's a UFO. I usually go into it trying to figure out exactly what it is. And in this case yesterday, I noticed these lights that I didn't see before, and they are doing construction just down the street, so that's why there's a crane there. Same with a friend the other day, saw something in the sky, a trail of lights in the sky, and did some research on his phone and found out that SpaceX had launched that trail of satellites, the satellite link or whatever that's called, and so that's what it was. Like I said, I don't look for these, but I do look in the sky for stuff, and I think that's why. Also, most of these things kind of passed in front of me, or passed by me, like right over top of me. So you'll hear those stories as we go. So the third one, that would be, I was at a friend's house, and we were outside talking, and this is the one that was at night. So this is the one night sighting I've ever had. All the rest were during the day, clear blue skies, lots of light. One of them was a light in the sky, as I just explained, and these other ones, well, this one's going to be at night. So anyway, I think I have a photo here, because I didn't remember exactly the location that he lived, but this is the kind of best shot that I could get of the area I figured it was in, that I could remember anyway. So as you can see, there's no one specific house. There's a whole bunch of houses, and then like another, where is it here? The street, and then a whole bunch more houses here, because this thing that I saw was enormous. It was gigantic. I can't really put an exact size to it, but I would say like a football field and a half length at least. Maybe 2 football field lengths. The only reason I saw it was because my friend was talking to me about something I don't remember. So anyway, I noticed the clouds that were not high up in the sky, but just like a layer of like mist, kind of, basically a gray mist, kind of being parted down the middle and spreading further and further. So there was this thing, a triangle shape, cutting through like a boat would through the ocean. Like it was cutting through, and the ripples of that were coming off the sides of it. So it was parting the clouds, is the best way to explain it. And you could see the clouds moving and getting wider and wider as it kind of came. And that blocked out the sky. Like, it came to a point where you could see stars before that. And it came over top of us, and it was starting to block out the stars in the sky. Like, they were just not there anymore. There was just a black thing going right above. And I pointed at it, and I said, "Hey man, look." And he was a skeptic, as it is, so he did this. And this is exactly the amount of time that he looked at it for. He went like this. "Oh yeah, geese." That was his whole look at the thing. So he obviously saw something in a V shape to, in that quick, momentary, not even really a look. So he did see a V shape, but there was no, with the honk, there was no honking. So anyway, this wasn't honking. It was making no sound at all. And it was blocking out the stars, like I said. It was parting the clouds, like I said. And it went for a while. Probably, I saw it for maybe, I would say, 30 seconds or so. It was just taking its sweet time. This was like I would dare to say mothership sized. And it was making no sound, just cruising like it had no care in the world. Moving slow, wasn't moving like a plane, like it wasn't flying fast. This thing was just cruising. Like it was just, like I said, like it was taking its sweet time. Probably thinking that nobody can see anything of it. And it was low. It was maybe, I would say 1,000 feet up. And if you're familiar, like I took some flying lessons and things, and 1,000 feet is not high. Like that's enough to make sure you're clearing the buildings nicely, but not really super high. I would even say maybe even a little lower than 1,000 feet, like maybe 700 feet or something like that. Like it was just above clearing the houses. So anyway, that was, I pointed out these houses because it took up even more space than like the distance between the houses in the picture, and was lower down than this picture that I took. So it was actually like even closer to ground level. So anyway, next thing. Okay, so I was driving home one day from working security, and it was winter time, so I got off work at 8:30, and the guys were usually pretty prompt at coming in at night at the right time, so I usually got out at the right time. So it took me about half hour, 25 minutes to drive from work to my house. I would say the time that I saw this was probably 9 o'clock in the morning, so in winter. So the sun is a little bit up. It's mostly sunny out, but there's a little bit of haze that has a little bit of darkness to it, but you can see pretty clearly. Like you could see the roads pretty easily and everything. So it wasn't dark. You didn't need to have your lights on or anything like that when you're driving home. So bright enough, basically. The crazy thing about this one was while I was driving, and I should explain first too, I don't carry my phone with me a lot. I'm one of those guys that likes to kind of disconnect and be, away from my phone. If I'm going out somewhere, I don't want to have my phone on me. I don't want to be distracted by my phone. I want to be doing whatever it is I'm doing. If I'm visiting friends or doing something that doesn't require a phone, I don't bring it with me. So in this case, I did, but it was zipped in my coat, my security coat that I had, and stuffed on the side seat of my car. So basically what happened is I just noticed as I was driving down the street, and this is near the Peace Bridge, there was this black silver disc, again, in this case, with lights around the entire thing. Like, I couldn't see like light bulbs, but there were lights going around the entire thing. Little spaces between each light, but all the way around. And they were randomly, to me anyway, randomly turning on and off, kind of strobing and turning different colors between like red, green, blue, and white, I think. So definitely it reminded me of Christmas colors, and it was around Christmas time. I think this was December, so I thought automatically something the city was doing that was Christmassy. So what I figured, just as I got the first glimpse of it, that's what came to my head, was it's Christmassy, this is Christmas time, there's something doing Christmas stuff. So that kind of caught my attention a little bit more. But the black object that was flying just above the tree line, this thing was probably 30 feet above the houses. So it was low. Again, it was low to the ground, and that's why, like, it passing right in front of me, like, I could clearly see. And it looked mechanical. This was the only one that I really got like some clear details in what it looked like. And it looked like a mechanical thing, but you couldn't see any moving parts. It just looked like there was a lot of pieces to it. But it was huge. It was not the same size as the last one, but it was maybe the size, the length of maybe 2 buses or 2 train cars. And again, like I said, it was round, lights flashing all around it, and it was cruising. Again, and all of these things that I've seen, except for the light that was in the sky, all these things were just cruising. Basically, like, they had no care in the world. Like, they didn't care if somebody saw them. Like, they were just nah. Like, they were patrolling an area, kind of taking their time to look and see. That's about as theory as I'm gonna really get. I'm trying to stay out of theory because I don't want to. This is just going to be my stories, not theories on what it is. So this is just what I saw. So anyway, where was I? So anyway, this thing is going by, and it's going down kind of where the river was. And just as it's passing by, I'm on the highway. Like, you are not allowed to stop on this road. It's not really a highway, but it's a major road. And you're not allowed to stop on a major road. So there was no turn off or anywhere I could go. It was literally cement median, or like a median in between the road. So I was kind of stuck. But I did check the rearview mirror to see if anybody was behind me, and there was nobody behind me. So I did stop, in fact. And I went for the side seat of my car, and I shuffled around to try and get my phone, basically. And I couldn't find it. I was actually searching the wrong pocket too, and I couldn't get it. And by the time I was like looking at it out the window, now I was watching it out the side window because I'm looking at it as it's passing over my car and going down the river. I'm rifling for my phone, And then after a couple seconds of trying to find it so I could take a picture, I looked in the rearview mirror and there were cars now coming behind me. So I had to go. I was not allowed to kind of stick around. But I hate to admit it, but I dangerously kind of just watched it as I drove a little bit, as I kind of accelerated it and went. I continued to watch it, and it just went down the river over the Crowchild Trail, which is where I just come from, and went off into the distance until I couldn't look at it anymore because I had to look where I was driving. If it was a drone, like, it would be probably a multi-million-dollar drone, and you wouldn't be flying it over a river that I can think of. You know, that's what kind of stuck in my head was, there's no way that somebody would take a really super expensive thing that they're testing or test driving or, you know, trying out, because I've never heard of anybody else seeing this sort of thing, and they're going over a river. You know, if that thing fails or something doesn't work or it collapses, down into the river it goes. So I don't see it being a drone. This last one was right nearby. So again, this thing passed over my car. I was driving home from Safeway, had my groceries on my side seat, didn't have my phone with me because, again, it's in my house, and I'm driving down the Edmonton Trail Hill. That's where this is. So this picture is the Edmonton Trail Hill in Calgary. So it's a very steep, or not very steep, it's a very long incline. This is pretty much the exact spot that I saw this thing to. And it passed right over my car. So I saw at the beginning of it just coming towards me. And then when it went overhead, and this thing was moving a little bit faster than all the rest of it. It was not going super fast, but it was moving a little bit quicker than the other ones I'd seen. And it looked like a triangle here, and a triangle connected to it right here. I don't want to make the camera go out of focus. But anyway, this is what it looked like. It had this kind of connected, if you can imagine two triangles flying kind of right beside each other but connected. This one's tip is connected to the corner of the other one's end. And the color of it, this is the weird part, is the color, I guess part of the weird part, is that they looked like a reptilian type of scaly sort of color, like skin to them. It didn't look like they were colored that way. It looked like a coating over top of it. And it had kind of different, like a brown, like a, not camouflage, but like a brown slightish tint into a green sort of look to them. And yeah, it was low. It was low to the ground. Like as I watched it, because I was just away from my house at this point. So I luckily got a green light all the way through to my house. And by the time I got to my driveway, I could still see it going off into the distance. The weird part about it was I didn't go into my house and run to get my phone because I figured it was too far away at this point, but I could see it from where I was, and it was fading off into the distance. And the thing was now a different shape, and it was these two triangles again, but they were like connected at the two endpoints, basically, and spinning. But it looked like almost like they were moving like giant wings, right? They were like they weren't flapping, but the inside of the thing was kind of like moving in a wave. And as they spun, they were spinning now in a different shape, and basically like kind of having this little sort of like hovering sort of look to it as it went off into the distance. I would say 2 minutes I watched it for, because it stayed in the distance for a while. It went over my car quickly, but it took a while to kind of like go away far enough that I couldn't really see it anymore. I didn't rush to get my phone, like I said, because I was too enamored at capturing it into my brain. And again, I didn't think it would be able to capture anything because it was still kind of far away, and it was thin. This was like a thin thing, so I could see it still moving, but it was a very thin thing when you watched it in the distance. But I did check to see if other people were seeing this guy across the street staring at the sky and just staring. I wondered if other people were looking at me or looking at this thing. And I looked across the street, which is a busy kind of intersection, and this is what I saw. So people with their phone, and they're looking down. They're looking down at their phone, walking down the street. So this thing is passing over your head, and you're just like enthralled by your phone and looking at the ground. So no wonder people don't see these things all the time, or don't see them, in normal day life, because they're looking at their phone. So that's my only thing to people who kind of criticize it and say, why aren't there pictures? Well, there's pictures. In fact, there's a lot of stuff that's leaked out recently that has been confirmed by, the Pentagon and the military, and they're saying they don't know what it is. Again, I'm not like summoning these things. I don't believe that I'm attached to aliens in a kinetic way. I don't believe any of that stuff. I just think I just got lucky, and that's why I saw these. I just got lucky at what I saw, basically. So anyway, that's kind of my best explanation. So that's it. Those are the 5. I think I covered all 5. And I tried my best to kind of explain with pictures and things. There's lots of different kind of theories, I imagine, that people are going to say. I'm probably going to get ridiculed by some people, but, that comes with the territory. If things end up coming out that... because, they already confirmed that they're there, like the U.S. Obama even said it. Obama said, yeah, they're there. We don't know what they are, and they're there. And we have to look at them seriously. So hopefully people will kind of start looking at these things as serious things to look into, because it would be nice to know what is going on. Ever since I've seen these things, I've wanted an explanation. It occupies your mind when you hear about this stuff, and it all kind of comes flooding back. I will never forget these, because they are stuck in your brain. When your brain can't figure out what it is that it's looking at, it just sticks. It's like a traumatic experience, except it's not traumatic. Like, somebody who hasn't seen one doesn't know the feeling. And the feeling that I got, which I kind of noted the last time I saw one, I didn't really kind of think about it before, but you get like an adrenaline rush while your brain is going a mile a minute trying to figure out what it is it's looking at. And when it can't figure out what it is it's looking at, and it ends with no explanation, that sticks in your head. Like, you can't just erase that. That is, people say eyewitness accounts are not credible, but they use them in court to convict people. These have been stuck in my head forever, since 2004, and that was a while ago, and I was much younger, and it's still going on apparently more often now today, from what I hear. So maybe that's why I see more of them. So anyway, that's going to be the end of the video.